Shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All right, first and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Shem Yahushua, Shem Dash, and of course, double honors go out to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, all right, who deserve double honors and who continue through the Holy Spirit, all right, to give us this truth, knowledge, and understanding, all right. This is Naaman with the DC camp, and lo and behold, we got these two pieces of shit right here. Look at them. Father and son, these two scumbags here. Alright, this is back in the news. It says, and this is from the dailybeast.com. Ahmaud Arbery's killers are trying to put him on trial. Will a judge let them? This is going back, or it's reminiscent of the good old days where these red pieces of shit, they could do things like this, murder Jake. Often they would get off because, Jake was seen as not human, having, I don't know, all the excuses they use. It seemed as though he had superhuman strength. And, I was scared for my life. I had to take extreme measures, whatever. It says unfair prejudice here. It says the defense team is attempting to justify the vigilante killing of Arbery, who can no longer speak for himself, by framing it as an act of self-defense. Oh boy. This is the scum. That's why we need a savior, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Akim and a few Aquath that are listening. This is why we need Yahweh. He's the mediator. Yahweh Shai. He's the mediator between man and Most High Yahweh. All right. He goes on to say the trial of 3 men charged in the killing of Ahmaud Arbery is slated to begin in October. But if a Georgia Superior Court judge grants a series of requests made by attorneys for the defense, it will be Arbery who goes on trial. Now get a load of this shit. Lawyers for Gregory and Travis Mitchell, these two pieces of shit right here, once again. Father and son. Red pieces of shit. Classic Edomite. It says the father and son, respectively, who chased down Arbery, and that's the operative phrase there. They chased him down. So therefore, how was he a threat to you? You were a threat to him. All right, it says who chased down Arbery in their pickup truck before fatally shooting him 3 times at close range, I believe with a shotgun. It says they filed a motion late last year requesting that Judge Timothy Walmsley permit only 1 photo of Arbery when living to be shown during the trial. That he be depicted alone and not in the company of loved ones. They're trying to dehumanize him. And that he be identified to the court during trial by a non-family member. In the filing, the defense team argues that to allow more photos would potentially create the danger of unfair prejudice among jurors. Yet when the roles are reversed, that's all you do. How many times have you witnessed court TV or anything where they just lay it on Jake? I mean, everything. Some shit that they don't even think that has anything to do with the trial. He was a bedwetter until the age of 13. I mean, just stupid shit, but of course, when it comes to, all right, that oh man, I'm just at a loss for words. Salakia. This is 2021, but again, this is why we say to you, Jake's out there that still want to stay here that still support this piece of shit country after all it's done to you, and furthermore, after all it continues to do to you. You know, that's why we always bring out Sirach or Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 10 on down. You know, never trust your enemy. They are and have been always our enemy. All right? It says the purpose of this motion is to prevent the prosecution from ignoring its duty to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that crimes were actually committed and that the McMichaels committed the crimes as charged. The defense motion states, it says the filing goes on to note that the McMichaels do not concede that criminal conduct occurred in this case, and that the use of loaded words such as identifying Arbery as a victim, again, this is something they do when it pertains to them. All right, it says such as identifying Arbery as a victim tacitly ascribes guilt to the McMichaels, denying them the presumption of innocence. The fuck? Man. Now you know why it says, let me get it real quick. Now you know why it says this. Here it is, you done murked, man. And this is aptly titled here. It says a sin of partiality. All right. This is James 2:13. It says, for he shall have judgment without mercy. All right. That hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. All right. This man is in, well, hey, Sirach 10:1 on down. Proverbs 29:2. This is what you're dealing with. All right. This is someone, Isaiah 10, 6 and 7, particularly verse 7. All right. This is what you're dealing with. Someone who was not intended to rule from the get-go. It's just that we're being punished. All right. And they're the perfect devil, and they're the perfect tool. You go to Psalm 17. All right. Now you know why they were greatly despised by King David and others ages ago. All right. Once again, James 2:13, it says, for he shall have judgment without mercy, that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. All right. Wow. These are the tactics of a defense team attempting to justify the white vigilante killing of Arbery, who can no longer speak for himself by framing it into an act of self-defense. Cell phone footage shot by a third defendant and ambush participant William Rody Bryan clearly documents the armed vehicular pursuit of Arbery by his attackers, capturing the horrific moment when Travis McMichael fired off the shotgun blast that killed the 25-year-old Arbery. In the face of that unequivocal evidence, the McMichaels and Bryan have nonetheless entered not guilty pleas to the 9 charges they each face. 4 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault, malice murder, false imprisonment, and criminal intent to commit false imprisonment. In recent months, their lawyers have filed an ever-growing mountain of motions to prevent a jury from seeing the human life his killer snuffed out that day. Instead, defense lawyers are working to portray a young man who was jogging near his home as a dangerous, go that word, black threat, whose death was warranted and even necessary. They said it was necessary. Again, he's going to receive no mercy. It even says that in the Bible dictionary. All right, Edom, the descendants of Jacob's brother Esau, are the only nation that will promise no mercy from the Most High. And yet, you idiots out there, you want to scoff and uh, be at constant disagreement when all you have to do, we understand that you read, but it's a little bit more to that. You have to pray for understanding. You've counted so long on your enemy giving you the truth, and one has to question one's sanity that does that. All right, here's a person, they brought you over here. They are your enemies. It's not in their best interest to tell you who they are, to give you the truth. You're here to, all right, to be the engine behind, all right, to keep this place running here, keep it fixed up. You're still the help, in other words. We are still the help. All right, continuing on. Some people just are not going to get it. It says the legal team's strategy for getting a jury to agree is to make Arbery, who was unarmed and on foot when armed white men in a pickup truck gave chase, into a criminal threat to white society. So they're just pulling out all the stops, all right, here. It says, at a July hearing, Kevin Gall, a defense lawyer for Bryant, suggested that Arbery was attempting a carjacking. Whether he intends to take the vehicle, push Mr. Bryant out, or bury him in the woods, we don't know. But a jury can reasonably infer that Mr. Arbery was trying to commit a felony. In multiple motions and responses, defense lawyers have asked the court to, in the words of prosecutors, engage in a fishing expedition into Arbery's mental health records to raise questions about his mental stability at the time of the shooting, including information from his toxicology report to support the McMichaels' intention that Arbery was acting funny and not right. Prosecutors counter that the only reason to put such evidence before the jury is to suggest that Mr. Arbery got what he deserved. And that's exactly what they said earlier up top. That's what they're going for. See, the more things change, the more things remain the same. I hope you're getting that. It said this goes hand in hand with defense efforts to portray Arbery as having the kind of superhuman strength, what did I tell you, that always serves as a white alibi for murdering so-called black folk. Defense attorney Bob Rubin, reusing a well-worn script, told CBS News that Travis McMichael is a good man who had to defend himself because he was being attacked and overwhelmed by Ahmaud Arbery's strength and had no choice but to either fire that gun or lose his life at that point. Rubin told the outlet that a 17-year-old Travis McMichael saved a young black man from drowning in a pool. Defense attorney Frank Poe has an almost identical story about Greg McMichael rescuing a young black sailor who was drowning. Wow. In a motion filed in June, the defense team writes that Arbery, when trying to grab the shotgun Travis McMichael was aiming at him, wasn't trying to protect himself from his killers, but was attempting an assault to kill or seriously injure McMichael. To support the contention that the McMichaels were just good old boys, or just good guys with guns faced with a violent, aggressive, dangerous, confrontational attacker, they're asking Judge Walmsley to okay testimony that would indicate Mr. Arbery has a reputation for being all of those things, which they claim officers' insights into Arbery's intent and motive. But did you know all this at that time? The answer, of course, is no. You killed a man that was out jogging. He stopped briefly to look at a house that was under construction, as did others. all right, because you got some bad information from some neighbors, and you thought you were going to take the law into your own hands. And the guy was trying to get around you, but you kept trying to hem him up. That's why you get that um, kidnapping charge. All right, and then you use that excuse when you boxed him in. He's trying to get away. All right, trying to save his life, and then you turn around and spin it. Another reason why this place has to go. And he says he asked Earl Ward, a prominent New York City defense attorney and trial lawyer, about some of the defense's filings, including the aforementioned motion to introduce Arbery's reputation. The motions to prevent prosecutors from using the term victim or its photo request is typical for a criminal defenders, he says. Let me start by saying Mr. Arbery was a victim. There's no doubt about that. But in the court of law, the argument is there's not a victim until the jury has determined there's a victim. And if the government refers to him as the victim, it sends a message that the defendants on trial are the victimizers. It takes away the presumption of innocence, which is so key to our constitutional system. But what about the dead guy? Shouldn't he have had that same presumption of innocence? But no, they profiled him. They, um, um, damn it. All right, they effectively lied and said this guy was trying to break into that house when he didn't, because, like I say, there were others. But, oh, that's right. They looked like the perpetrators. I forgot all about that. And that seems to be that is the only difference here. He goes on to say the same is true with bringing in a lot of photographs of family, which would go too far in the sense that it appeals to sympathy. The government has to prove the case, and sympathy shouldn't come into play. It's consistent with the idea that there is a presumption of innocence, which is why most defense attorneys typically try to keep that out. And it says right here, had the defendants stayed at their homes and simply called 911, Mr. Arbery would be alive. That's not a given because something could have went wrong with the police. But these two idiots certainly would have been involved. Instead, the defendants took it upon themselves to gather their firearms, get into their pickup trucks, and chased after Arbery. They chased him, attempted to hit him with the pickup trucks, assaulted him, and repeatedly tried to falsely imprison him. But what about the effort to introduce what's known as 404B, evidence testimony that Arbery was aggressive in the past? All right, Ward told me that qualifies as bullshit. Typically, you cannot bring in evidence of the decedent's behavior unless the defendants knew about it. And in this case, they didn't. That's what I said earlier. If they didn't know that Ahmaud Arbery had done something in the past, it can't be used to justify their behavior in that moment. To just bring it in sort of randomly because you want to prejudice the jury because they're going to hear that he's done some bad things in the past, what's the relevance? All right. It says the defense's recent motions are tied to a strategy, as they expressly noted in their filing, to rely heavily upon Georgia's then applicable citizens arrest statute. The McMichaels contend they believed Arbery was responsible for a number of burglaries that had recently occurred in their neighborhood. Their lawyers will argue that because of that probable cause belief, Arbery's decision not to obey the white man stalking him was illegal, because it is unlawful to resist lawful citizens' arrest. Well, are they wearing any type of uh, uniform or have anything that would identify them as, I don't know, even security, anything? Someone just come up to you that looks like, I mean, not look like you, but that's in civilian attire. They don't have a badge or anything like that. How in the hell you mean tell me you're just supposed to trust somebody like that just because they say, this is a citizen's arrest in this day and age? Anytime, but especially now. Get the hell out of here. It says Georgia's racist slavery era citizens arrest law was repealed in May. So they repealed it because of this incident here. But that was something that was on the books. Wow. It says Georgia's racist slavery era citizens arrest law was repealed in May, primarily because of Arbery's killing, with even right-wing Governor George Bryan Kent writing in an op-ed that Arbery was the victim of a vigilante style of violence that has no place in our state, and some tried to justify the actions of his killers by claiming they had the protection of an antiquated law that is ripe for abuse. Exactly. All right, so yeah, I'm going to stop it right there for time's sake, and there's a little bit more to go, but I'm gonna cut it right there because I think you got the point. All right, this is why. All right, let's go to the Apocrypha real quick. This is no, it's 10. Salakia. All right, this is Ecclesiasticus chapter 10 or Sirach. Let's go down here. Yeah, here it is. What I was talking about earlier, an unwise king destroyeth his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. All right. This is down to verse 10 here. It says, wait a minute. Verse 8, it says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. Who is that talking about? The kingdom is translated from one people to another. The so-called white man got to go. All right, and he will go. You got to remember, let's go get some more scriptures here. Let's go to, this is Job chapter 14. All right, and I went too far down, so I can, the scroll feature here messes up sometimes. Come on. All right, here we go. This is Job chapter 14, verse 5. It says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. So you ain't going to the moon. You haven't gone to the moon. You're definitely not going to Mars or any other place. You've been quarantined by the Most High. All right, dirty, hairy, red bastards. All right, so with that, once again, this has been about this Jake that was murdered last year. By these two Edomite pieces of shit. Now they're trying to throw one hell of a wrench into things. All right, so once again, he continues to go lower and lower and lower and lower. Just when you thought he couldn't go any lower, that's something that, why would you think that? But just for the sake of argument, this motherfucker just keeps getting it's just low down, dirty. I call him scoundrel. I don't have any time to go into that right now, but you can look that up. It's definitely a word that fits this piece of shit. Right? Never trust him. Never. So with that, once again, I hope that whoever views this is edified, because this is all done, all right, by all the Akim out there on the highways and byways, all out through the four corners of the earth, all right, trying to wake up the remaining hopefully elect. That's what we're trying to do. All right, so with that, hey, shalom.